Richard, welcome back to another episode of the top 24 quarterbacks for week 6. And before we get started, I just want to review how we did on week 5. So would you like to add a little bit something?
Yeah. Basically, there's 2 quarterbacks that are still playing tonight. I mean, we're doing this early, right? Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill, they're playing tonight. But of the remaining 22 quarterbacks, we got 20 of them right. Boom, boom, boom. 20 of 22. And then, depending on those 2, we could actually have 22 of 24. But if you want to talk about the top 12, we have of our top 12 quarterbacks, 8 were in the real top 12. 8 of 12, possibly 9 of 12 if Josh Allen makes it into the top 12, which we suspect he will. We have Josh Allen at number 5.
Well, we did a good week. Good job. So let's get started for the top 24 quarterbacks for week 6.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom.
Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
All right, starting at number 1, we have Patrick Mahomes, who year to date is the number 4 fantasy quarterback on a per game basis. But you can always count on him, and he's going to rise from number 4. He's potentially going to be in a shootout this week at Buffalo.
This week's shootout.
And number 2, we have Josh Allen, who's home against Kansas City. We just spoke about it. We expect this to be a shootout.
This week's shootout.
And what can you say about Josh Allen? He's been amazing this year. Ryan?
Well, he's definitely found chemistry with Stephon Diggs. He's just been performing really well all season. The Buffalo defense is the only holdup.
Actually, the defense being bad is actually good for fantasy prospects. I mean, we saw with Dak Prescott. Unfortunately, Dak got hurt, but we see it. Bad defense means you have to pass more, which means your fantasy numbers go up. So good quarterback, good offense with a bad defense is great for fantasy. And then we have number 3, Aaron Rodgers. He'll be at Tampa Bay. Tough matchup defensively, but it doesn't matter who Aaron Rodgers plays. He's going to put up big numbers. Number 4, we have Kyler Murray, who's been pretty good this season. He's got a great matchup at Dallas. So we have him in our top 5. Number 5, Tom Brady, who's home against Green Bay. Number 6, Ben Roethlisberger, who's home against Cleveland. Ryan, what do you have to say about Big Ben?
I think this is going to be another matchup that I really like this week. If you own Ben Roethlisberger in your fantasy team, he's playing against the Cleveland defense that's ranked 30th in the pass. So I really like this matchup if you're a fantasy owner. He can have a big week.
And number 7, we have Deshaun Watson, who's going to be at Tennessee. And Deshaun showed signs of life last week. Hopefully we'll see more of that. Ryan, is he rising again?
He definitely finally came through for all the fantasy owners that has him on his team. He did 359 passing yards, 3 TDs. I don't know if he's back, but it definitely came back this past week. With Watson, you have to start him no matter what. So you got to start him. He's just got that big potential. And what do you think about Watson?
Romeo Crennel basically is letting him play loose, letting him play his game, how he wants to play it. Crennel has nothing to lose, so he's just telling Watson, go out there, have fun, and I think that's gonna result in very positive statistics from this point on. So I like Deshaun Watson, and I like his future prospects. And number 8, we have Cam Newton, who's home against Denver. And number 9, Lamar Jackson, who is at Philadelphia. Even at 9, I was still considering, should I put Lamar Jackson in my top 10, which is crazy to think, right? The guy that could have been picked maybe first or second overall, as not overall in a draft, but as from the quarterback position. He was either the first or second quarterback taken in 99% of all drafts. And here he is. To date, he is number 17 on a per game basis. And why? It's simple. He's on pace to throw for 3,000 yards, just like last year, which is really bad. It's really bad for any fantasy owner. But What Lamar Jackson did last year was he threw for 36 touchdowns, which is great, and he ran for 1,200 yards. So far, he's on pace to run for like 750 yards, somewhere in that neighborhood. 500 less yards than last year, that is really bad. That is going to plummet his fantasy value. If Baltimore is just going to play it safe, take care of Lamar's body, because their defense is good, because they have a good team, and they're not going to rely on him, yeah, it's going to be great for winning, but not for fantasy. So Lamar Jackson owners have to be sweating right now. At number 10, boom, Ryan Fitzpatrick. The beard comes in at number 10, who's going to be home against the Jets. Great matchup. Fitzpatrick has been lighting it up. I mean, he just went to San Francisco and put up 43 points against a pretty good San Francisco defense. The Chan Gailey and the Miami offense is feeling it right now, and they get the lowly Jets. And number 11, Matt Stafford, who will be at Jacksonville. And number 12, Ryan Tannehill, home against the Texans. Number 13, Jared Goff, who goes to San Francisco, where Ryan Fitzpatrick just put up 43 points. I think Jared Goff is going to do well. And number 14, Gardner Minshew, home against Detroit. And I just got to mention that Gardner Minshew, year to date, is the number 13 quarterback on a per-game basis. I'll give him a little credit. He's knocking on the door of being a QB1. I'm not a big fan, but his stats have been decent.
This week's fantasy player stock is falling.
At number 15, we have Matt Ryan at Minnesota. Matt Ryan is number 21 year to date on a per-game basis, number 21 amongst quarterbacks. That's terrible for a guy with the weapons he has. Sure, Julio Jones has been hurt, but he still has Ridley, still has a Hurst, a good tight end, still has Todd Gurley out of the backfield. There are weapons on this offense, and Matt Ryan has been bad. He hasn't been very good. At number 16, Kirk Cousins, who's got Atlanta at home. Good matchup for a running team, but I think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to throw this week. What do you think, Ryan?
I like this matchup. I'm looking forward to it. Kirk Cousins hasn't really had that spectacular game. This is the week that he's going to go off.
Number 17, Andy Dalton, who is home against Arizona. Sure, he's not Dak Prescott, but that's still a very good offense. They're at home against a defense that has been suspect. So we got to put Andy Dalton in our top 24. And number 18, Joe Burrow at Indianapolis. Joe had his first bad week last week. Ryan, what do you have to say about that?
Joe Burrow's going to have another bad week. He's playing the number one defense, especially against the pass. I think he's just going to have 2 bad weeks. Not looking good for him going up against the Colts this week. So I don't like this matchup for him.
Number 19, we have Phillip Rivers, who is home against Cincinnati. Yes, it's a good matchup, but here's a fact about Phillip Rivers. Year to date, he's quarterback number 31. The only quarterback that's worse than him on a per-game basis is Daniel Jones. And we know how pathetic he's been. At number 20, we have Nick Foles at Carolina. At number 21, Teddy Bridgewater, home against Chicago. Teddy's showing us some signs. He just has a very difficult matchup this week. And number 22, Carson Wentz, who will be home against Baltimore. Very tough matchup. At number 23, Baker Mayfield, who will be at Pittsburgh. Mayfield looked decent last week. Got a very tough matchup, but he's better than what's left amongst quarterbacks. At number 24, Sam Darnold at Miami.
Well, the thing about this matchup is the Miami defense is improving, and you saw that last week against the San Francisco 49ers. So I won't be surprised if the Miami Dolphins defense does really good again. So that's going to be a tough matchup for Sam Darnold.
I agree. The issue is with bye weeks, we have Derek Carr out, Justin Herbert out, Drew Brees, and Russell Wilson. A guy like Sam Darnold is going to make the 24. That's how it goes.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on here and giving us your top 24. I hope this is paying off for you. I know it is for me. And anything you want to say before we get going here?
Just want to wish everybody good luck this week, week 6, and stay with it. Don't give up on fantasy football. So many people are frustrated by buys and injuries and COVID weeks. Just keep doing it.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, good luck this week on your fantasy football. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.